Hello everyone, hope you guys are having a great day. It is April 23rd, and today I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about today's severe weather event. Looks like today and tomorrow could be a potential severe weather outbreak in the south, and then looks like we're going to have another severe weather outbreak potentially mid next week around Tuesday, maybe even into Wednesday and Thursday. So let's get started with the video. So today we do have two enhanced risks. We have one in southern Oklahoma into northern Texas, and we have another one in eastern Texas, southern Arkansas, northern and central Louisiana, into southwestern Mississippi. Two 5% tour risks, one along the dry line, and one with a line of storms, with some embedded supercells potentially. Two 30% wind threats, and a 15 sig hail risk along the dry line. And tomorrow it's going to continue. We have a slight risk that goes from Mississippi through Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with this, though. Looks like the warm front may not make it as far north as expected, so they might take the slight risk out of areas in North Georgia and upstate South Carolina, but we'll have to see what they do if the second day too at 16:30 Z, or they could just do it they could just do it tomorrow morning for the day one outlook. We do have a 5% tour risk tomorrow, 15% wind, and a 15 sig hail in Mississippi and Alabama. Then day 3 and day 4 looks to be calm. Sunday and Monday. Now, next Tuesday looks to be the start of our next event. We have a large 15% that goes from northern Kansas down into southern Texas. And it looks like that could continue into Wednesday, maybe Thursday. But Tuesday looks to be the biggest day as of right now. Cities in this is Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Arlington. So yeah, let's get started with looking at today's risks. This is 19Z today. See, we have some storms trying to go off along the dry line here. I'm thinking this is a dry line. We take a sounding right here. Let's see, actually. Let's go to Dews. Okay, yeah, the dry line's actually further to the west, but it looks like we're going to have storms go off pretty far in front of it. Not very organized storms, as you guys can see. Not a whole lot of organization to them, but some of them could be supercells and potentially produce some tornadoes, so... and large hail especially, with damaging winds as we get a line of storms, it'll likely move to the southeast through areas of Louisiana, eastern Texas, Arkansas, and the Mississippi. But this is 19Z. This is mid-afternoon. We have maybe some isolated storms in Arkansas and Louisiana, but these don't look good. I don't think those are going to do a whole lot. Maybe some hail, some damaging wind, or some gusty winds. That's about it. I'm not thinking a tornado risk will occur with those. But further to the west over here, these have some potential problem. These don't really look organized, but this is only forecasted reflectivity. We want to look at the environment. So let's take some soundings. We're going to take one right here. And yeah, those would likely have a tornado risk, a moderate-sized hail threat. This is a surface-based sounding. Overall, that would likely 2% to 5% risk on the SPC. There are chances some isolated tornadoes with those. Let's take a sounding further to the north. A little bit less of a tornado threat with these. Not as great in stability. A little capped, and shear profiles don't look as good. Let's take one in southern Oklahoma now. All right, this is more capped. We don't have as much instability and less of a tornado threat also. So it doesn't look great at 19Z for tornadoes, but I'd say at 19Z, the area to watch would really be this area here. Because we take some soundings. We take one in southeastern Texas. And let me get a new one here. That's a bad sounding. We take one. Hopefully this is not contaminated. Okay. So we can see we have plenty of instability around 1,000 Cape. That's manageable. We can see we have decent shear profiles. I mean, not great. Hodo doesn't look great either, but there would be a tornado threat with this sounding. It's not going to be like a really good tornado risk, but you could see a tornado out of that if you have the right storm modes. That's why I'm thinking that early this afternoon, 19Z is around. 19Z is 3 p.m. or 2 p.m. Central. We can see we have. I'd say the greatest tornado threat will likely be in this area. It's kind of a weird shape. Let me redraw that. Likely this area here. But it does look like the tornado threat could go up along with the damaging wind risk as we go later in the afternoon. So let's skip ahead 2 hours here. Much more interesting look to this. We have maybe even some supercells going off in the Texas Panhandle on the dry line. We will have to see about those. This is going to be an area to watch later in the afternoon also, where we have our other enhanced risk, and this is the really second area to watch. There's going to be severe weather in between these areas, of course, but those are kind of the two main areas. This is 21Z. This is an interesting look. The HRRR indicates a lot of embedded supercells in the southern part of this. That's definitely could be a problem if we have good shear. Let's take a sounding. That look interesting, but let me get a new one because that's contaminated. Let me take one in southwestern Louisiana. Okay, this is very interesting. We have not a great looking Hodo. I don't like the looks of that. 1,000 Cape. Shear profiles are decent, I guess. I mean, not the best, but there would be a tornado threat with that supercell. It wouldn't be great, but you would see a little bit of a tornado threat. And we can take a sounding right here. This is a little contaminated. Let me get a better one. That's also contaminated. It's going to take forever. I'll just take one. I'll try and take one right here. That's contaminated too. It's been a problem the past couple of days. That's all. Okay, well, I guess I'm just not going to take a sounding, but it does look like these storms here will have a tornado threat. And it may not be a significant tornado threat. I'm not thinking it's going to be a significant tornado threat, but I do think these storms are going to carry with them a little bit of a tornado threat. And we can take a sounding in the Texas Panhandle in front of that, so finally it's not contaminated. This is not going to support a whole lot of tornadic potential. We don't have, first of all, we have a lot of instability. There's going to be large hail storms in the Texas Panhandle. The eastern Texas Panhandle, maybe by Wichita Falls, Texas. There could be some significant sized hail, but tornado risk doesn't look great with this sounding. You could see something out of this. I don't know, I'm not liking the looks of that at all, but maybe something. We go skip ahead another hour. This cluster of storms is moving east with likely some embedded supercells on the southern side. And we can see this sounding's interesting. We have decent shear. Hodo doesn't look great, but a little bit of a tornado threat with that for sure. Let's take a sounding by Dallas Fort Worth. And yeah, with those storms, it's going to be, we don't have a lot of instability. Likely just damaging winds and some smaller hail. Maybe some decent, maybe some significant, or not significant, maybe some moderate sized hail too. And on the northern side here, we can see we have these cells in southwestern Oklahoma, or going into southwestern Oklahoma. Not a tornado threat with those. I'm not thinking we're going to have a significant tornado threat, but I'm thinking those are going to prove some significant sized hail. Look at these lapse rates now. 700 to 500 lapse rates. Those are 8.6. That's extreme. Just very steep lapse rates with this sounding, and plenty of instability also. Tornado risk doesn't look great. I'm not saying you can't get a tornado out of this sounding, but it's not as good as for the southeast. But considering this might be a supercell, we might have better storm mode than the ones to the south. We could see maybe that storm produced a tornado. This sounding up in Oklahoma is very interesting. We don't have a lot of instability. It's capped. Shear profiles are a little weird. That could be have it carry with it a little bit of a tornado potential and a little bit of tornado potential. This one further to the south, not as good. Once again, we have less instability. Shear profiles don't look as good. Hodo doesn't look as good, but I'm not thinking a tornado risk with this at all. Maybe just moderate sized hail with those cells. But yeah, so let's go to this is 8 p.m. now. We can see we have a wow, that looks interesting. Complex of storms moving east through Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. Some embedded supercells likely on the southern side, carrying large hail, damaging winds, and the chance of a tornado. Take a sounding in southern Louisiana here. Very interesting shear profiles. That's not a good sounding though. Let's get a better one in a second. First, I want to go take a sounding with this massive looking supercell, kind of by the Wichita Falls area. Trying to get a good one. Yeah, I don't think that cell's going to carry with it much of a tornado risk. I do think because it's an isolated or more isolated supercell, it could carry with it a tornado. It's just because of that. I don't think it's going to produce any significant tornadoes or anything like that, but I do think we'd have a tornado risk and definitely large hail. That's going to produce some big hail. Any cells in this area have the chance of producing some significant sized hail. Let's try and get a decent sounding down in Louisiana here. Let's take one right here. All right, we don't have a lot of instability. It looks like most of the instability has been eaten away. Shear profiles are decent, but problem is this is not a good sounding. I'm not liking the looks of that. I mean, the soundings aren't good in this area. Yeah, these soundings are just kind of terrible. But I would expect these storms maybe have a little bit of a tornado threat as they move through southern Louisiana, maybe into southern Mississippi. This area though looks kind of interesting, especially especially these supercells the HRRR is indicating. Those look to produce maybe some significant hail. And this is 10 p.m. now, O2Z, or well actually 9 p.m. Central. I'm probably gonna live stream later. So I'll probably start the stream at around 9. But we can see we have a complex of storms moving through Oklahoma, and our other one down here further to the southeast. Let's get some soundings here. Once again, maybe some tornadoes with those with that southern supercell there. Kind of goes more linear, which is what we normally see. But we're losing some of the instability. We're starting to get more of a capped environment. This is overnight now. But the shear is still there. That HOTA doesn't look great, though. But I do think we're going to still have a tornado threat, of course, but just not as good. Now, we go further to the north. We can see this sounding has barely any instability. It's very capped. HOTA doesn't look good. You're not going to have a tornado threat, though. It's just damaging wind likely and some hail. But that's about it. Let's take a sounding with this storm in northern Texas here. This looks to be an elevated. Yeah, or actually, no, it's not really elevated. A little bit, yeah, but we can see overall it looks decent, just not very good. And yeah, I don't think that's going to be very good, or a very strong storm up there if that does happen. Take a sounding in southern Louisiana. Now, this is what I'm thinking for tornadoes. Let me get a better one. That's contaminated. But that actually doesn't look bad. That's terrible. That shear, though, just looks good. I can't get a non-contaminated sounding, though, which is the problem. Here we go. This is actually really interesting. We have 1,000K. That's enough instability. And it's a surface-based. Critical angle is 74. This HOTA is going to support tornadoes. This is a 5%, maybe 10% sounding. I'd say that these supercells in southern Louisiana have a decent chance, the southern supercells, of producing maybe a tornado or two. Take a sounding in further to the east. Let me get a new one. And we can see we have not a great environment once again. Shear is there. It's not great, of course, but we can see we don't have a lot of instability and it is capped. So let me get a new one. I'm not going to get a new one. We're going to go ahead and move to the southeast for Saturday here. So we go to Saturday morning, and Saturday 07Z, we still have some southern supercells potentially here. Let's take a sounding. This is slightly contaminated, but likely still a little bit of a tornado threat with those. Overnight tornado potential has been worrying me in that area for a while. Those continue moving east, and we can see by 14Z, this is around 10 a.m., we can see we have a strong line of storms with likely some gusty winds and hail on the southern side moving through Georgia, South Georgia, Florida Panhandle, and southern Alabama. Those look to bring mainly damaging winds and some hail. Maybe a tornado risk. Problem is it's mainly going to be linear, but this sounding would bring a little bit of a tornado threat. And that's going to help maybe stabilize the environment across this area here. So that could limit the severe weather potential for North Georgia areas like Atlanta and into Greenville, South Carolina. We got a 20Z. We can see we have a line of storms kind of that form and kind of goes through Atlanta. This doesn't look great, though. This looks to me just like a capped low instability line of showers, and it dies quickly as it moves further to the northeast. We see storms in Alabama, western Georgia, where we have more instability. We don't get all that morning heavy rain. And these look kind of significant. Some of these could be tornado producers. This is a PDS Tor sounding. that doesn't look bad. Let's take a sounding in eastern Alabama, east central Alabama. This is not bad. Not much of a tornado threat with that though. Let's take a sounding in northwestern Alabama with that. That's contaminated. Let me get a new one. All right, here we go. So, decent shear profiles, decent instability, and I mean, that would support maybe a weak tornado. I don't like that though. But it does look like we're gonna see this area down here concerns me the most for tornadic potential tomorrow due to maybe some supercells and tomorrow afternoon and decent shear profiles. I'm thinking that area will have a tornado threat. I do expect maybe the SPC to take the slight risk out for this area. There just doesn't seem to be enough instability. Now, if the NAM is still going to stick to it with the 12Z run, which the 12Z run is currently coming out, we can actually look at that on the NAM 3 here. Yeah, it's still sticking to the strong line of storms moving through North Georgia, upstate South Carolina. So that might just be enough for the SPC to keep it slight for that area. But the HRRR doesn't think that. The HRRR thinks really nothing's going to happen. Let's take a sounding here in North Georgia. We can see that's terrible. It's contaminated. Let me get a new one. All right, we can see we have not great shear profiles, not great instability. It's slightly capped. Maybe a slight tornado threat, not great at all. Just damaging wind. Take a sounding by Edenton. And we can see we have not a lot of instability once again, but it's manageable. We have not a lot of, or it's a little capped. Shear profiles look a little better, likely a little bit of a tornado threat. Just problem is these storms are going to be mainly linear, and we don't have a lot of instability. But I would expect a small hail threat in this area if the NAM happens, and maybe likely a damaging wind threat would be the biggest threat in this area. But the chance of storms in this area is not as great as further to the south. Looks like this area really has the highest chance, or mainly this area. Like Montgomery, Alabama, Albany, Georgia. It doesn't look like further to the north has a great chance of getting storms. Might just be rain showers due to instability problems. This kind of reminds me of a little bit as for April. I think it was April 23rd last year. Actually, let me go back and show you that. Yeah, it was April 23rd last year. I'm pretty sure, yeah. We had a enhanced risk in the south here. It was actually slight all the way up into North Georgia, upstate South Carolina. But what happened was we actually we can go to the day 2 here. You can see there was an enhanced in this area. But then by the afternoon on day 1, it got downgraded to a marginal. This kind of reminds me of what we could see today, or tomorrow, which is April 24th. This was April 23rd last year, in 2020. This kind of reminds me of what we could see. All we saw was a few storms that produced hail. It was a capped environment, and we had morning rain the clouds never. We didn't. There was cloud cover throughout the whole day. There was not enough instability, and one storm really got going in North Georgia, and that was in Gainesville, or by Gainesville. That was produced some hail. So, kind of reminds me of that day a little bit. But there's always the chance that the NAM could actually happen. We could see a better environment and a strong line of storms move through that area. But it does look like sometimes the HRRR is better with this type of stuff than the NAM. But the NAM is definitely something to look at. Now we're gonna stop talking about Saturday. I want to go to next Tuesday real quick. So yeah, let's go to next Tuesday, and we're gonna take a few soundings. I'm not gonna go too in depth with next Tuesday, as I don't have a lot of time. Once again, but Tuesday we can see we have. I'll talk about it more in the live stream also, but we have a 995 millibar low in the Oklahoma Panhandle, or kind of by that area. We have some storms trying to go off by Oklahoma City down to Texas. Let's take a sounding in Texas. Yeah, just a severe weather threat. The GFS isn't really doing a great job with this, in my opinion. I think once we get to NAM, it'll be much easier to forecast this event. Right now, the GFS is not showing much of anything, tornado-wise, but I do think we're going to see some kind of event, and maybe even a few tornadoes in maybe Oklahoma in that area. These soundings don't look great, though, from the GFS. GFS has been like this for several days now. Not really thinking a whole lot might happen. Uh, but I do think we're going to see something. But once we get the NAM, which I think we'll get the NAM tomorrow, uh, during tomorrow's live stream, we'll probably talk about this more. And I'll talk about it also probably more in the live stream tonight. When we get the NAM, this will be much easier to forecast because the GFS just doesn't do great with these types with this type of stuff. At least in my opinion, this is. I mean, other models are showing more of a severe weather threat, though, like the Euro. I mean, so the Euro actually has a lot of isolated storms across this area, which might favor more of a tornadic potential. Let's look at 850, 850 winds. You can see, yeah, nice. Look, that looks good. That area. So the Euro might kind of shows a little bit more of a severe weather event, and I am gonna get uh pivotal weather plus soon. Planning on buying that probably in June. Uh, but yeah, to wrap this video, hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow. But yes, goodbye.